Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In the past, I made a couple of videos covering what happens to all of the major Harry Potter characters after the books end. In fact, one such video covers the fates of 100 separate characters, exploring what they got up to when Voldemort was defeated and the dust had settled at Hogwarts. But while making those videos, there were a number of characters I encountered whose fates, in the books, films, or both, were left pretty unclear. In some instances, Rowling left threads of what may or may not have happened to them, but overall, their ultimate destinies remain a mystery. Today we're picking up right where we left off, looking at more familiar faces and uncovering what J.K. Rowling has revealed, or hinted at, about their fates in a post-Voldemort era. Let's dive into it. Rita Skeeter. Rita Skeeter is one of the most shamelessly nosy and manipulative figures in the entire Harry Potter universe, a reporter whose quill is as poisonous as any serpent. She slithers into the story as the sensationalist journalist for the Daily Prophet, famous for twisting words, digging up gossip, and destroying reputations with her quick quotes quill. Skeeter first really makes an impact during the Triwizard Tournament, where she targets Harry, Hermione, and pretty much anyone else who can sell papers, going so far as to publish intimate details she could never have had. Although being an unregistered animagus, a beetle, does help when it comes to eavesdropping. Eventually, Hermione catches on, traps her in a jar during the end of Goblet of Fire, and blackmails her into silence for an entire year, effectively cutting off her supply of venom during the events of the Order of the Phoenix. But once the war begins and Voldemort rises, Skeeter wastes no time reclaiming her place in the wizarding media. She publishes The Life and Lies of Albus Dumbledore just after Dumbledore's death, a salacious, scandal-hunting biography that capitalizes on Harry's grief and plants seeds of doubt about the late headmaster's past. After Voldemort's fall, Skeeter remains very much in the public eye. While the Ministry underwent sweeping reforms, freedom of the press, for better or worse, stayed intact. Skeeter went right on exploiting it. By the time of the Quidditch World Cup in 2014, she was still active and as cutting as ever, publishing a particularly vicious gossip column about Harry, Ginny, Ron, and Hermione, mocking the so-called Golden Trio and Harry's kids at Hogwarts. Her tone hadn't softened one bit. If anything, she was more biting than ever, proving she'd survived the war not by courage, but by sheer opportunism. Unlike Dolores Umbridge, Rita never faces any real legal consequences. She isn't arrested, tried, or sent to Azkaban, because technically, most of what she does is awful, but not illegal. She remains a thorn in the side of the wizarding world, notorious, untrustworthy, and somehow still selling papers long after Voldemort is gone. In short, Rita Skeeter never got justice, but she did get a long career, proof that gossip, sadly, never goes out of style. Arabella Figg. Arabella Doreen Figg might seem like an odd footnote in Harry Potter's story, a squib neighbour with a lot of cats and a knack for lurking behind lace curtains. But her role was far more important than most readers realise. She was planted at number 4 Privet Drive by none other than Albus Dumbledore himself, tasked with quietly keeping watch over young Harry while he lived with the Dursleys. On the surface, she was the eccentric, slightly shabby old lady who smelled of cabbage and always invited Harry over to look at photos of her many cats. But in reality, she was one of the Order of the Phoenix's most trusted informants, living a double life as the wizarding world's eyes on Privet Drive. Dumbledore valued her precisely because she could blend into the Muggle world while staying connected to wizarding affairs. After Voldemort's defeat, Arabella Figg's life returns to the quiet, unassuming existence she'd cultivated for years. Rowling hasn't given a detailed, step-by-step account of her later years, but we know she remained a loyal friend to the Order and a trusted ally of the post-war Ministry. Without the constant threat of Voldemort, her undercover babysitter mission ended, and she was finally free to step out of the shadow of number 4 Privet Drive and live life on her own terms, likely still surrounded by her beloved cats, but no longer burdened with the weight of keeping Harry safe. Unlike some characters whose fates are grim or ambiguous, Figg's ending feels peaceful. She survives the war, avoids the chaos and corruption that swallowed so many others, and remains a quiet hero, one who protected Harry for years without him even knowing. No arrests, no trials, no dark twists, just a lifetime of quiet service that finally earned its recognition. Fenrir Greyback. Fenrir Greyback might seem like a run-of-the-mill Death Eater, but he actually wasn't. He worked closely with Voldemort and his Dark Wizards, but Fenrir actually wasn't officially part of the crew. Instead, the werewolf allied himself with Voldemort because they shared a common goal: overthrowing the existing power structure in the wizarding world. And by the time we meet him in the books, he's already a notorious terror and one of Voldemort's most brutal allies. During the Battle of Hogwarts, Greyback fights with feral brutality. He brutalizes Lavender Brown, whose fate is left slightly ambiguous, and he proves to be quite the valuable asset for the bad guys. That is, until he's taken down through the combined efforts of Ron, Neville, and a powerful blast from Flitwick. But here's where things are left a little unclear. We know he didn't die, but we also don't have any proof that he was successfully placed in Azkaban. The Reformed Ministry wasted no time rounding up dangerous supporters of the Dark Lord, and I imagine that Greyback, notorious, hated, and impossible to defend, would have been at the top of the list of people they'd like to imprison. But Rowling never gives us an explicit line confirming his fate. Unlike many Death Eaters whose trials and punishments are well documented, Greyback simply disappears from the narrative once the dust settles. That said, it's hard to imagine him walking free. Greyback wasn't just a follower, he was a sadistic predator with decades of murders and attacks tied to his name. He had no political cover, no family connections, and no way to plead coercion the way some lesser Death Eater sympathizers did. Sometimes I like to imagine that Fenrir slipped away in the chaos after Voldemort's fall, leaving Britain before the new ministry could catch him. He could have vanished into Eastern Europe, found other werewolf packs, and started infecting children to rebuild his own savage army. But as far as concrete evidence of this, I've got nothing. Charlie Weasley. Charlie Weasley is one of the most quietly fascinating members of the Weasley clan, a man who chose dragons over desk jobs, adventure over politics, and lived a life far away from the chaos that swept up so many others. By the time Harry meets him, Charlie has already graduated from Hogwarts, where he was a Quidditch star and even a potential professional prospect, and is working as a dragon keeper in Romania. During the Second Wizarding War, Charlie doesn't spend much time in Britain, but that doesn't mean he's uninvolved. He's part of the Order of the Phoenix, helping recruit foreign wizards to fight Voldemort and keeping watch on magical creatures that can be weaponized by the Dark Lord. When the Battle of Hogwarts begins, Charlie arrives with reinforcements, though tragically, he comes home only to lose his brother Fred in the fight. And after the war, Charlie remains one of the least domesticated Weasleys. While most of his siblings settle into families and careers closer to home, Bill with Fleur and Shell Cottage, George rebuilding Weasley's Wizard Wheezers, Percy climbing the ministry ranks, Charlie returns to Romania and his dragons. Rowling has confirmed that Charlie never marries and never has children. He's perfectly content with a life of adventure and research, fully devoted to his work with magical creatures. In her words, he's more interested in dragons than women. That doesn't mean he's disconnected from his family, though. Charlie stays close to the Weasleys, especially his younger siblings, and is said to be a favourite uncle to all the next generation kids. He travels back to the Burrow for big family gatherings and keeps his dragon stories coming, still the wild-hearted brother who's happiest out in the field. Aunt Marge. Marge Dursley, better known to Harry as Aunt Marge, is one of those characters who doesn't appear much, but manages to leave quite an impression. She's Vernon's sister, a bulldog-breeding, Harry-hating, Dudley-adoring woman who shows up in Prisoner of Azkaban to spend a week at Privet Drive, and ends up floating away like an oversized balloon after insulting Harry's parents one too many times. That disastrous visit is the last time we ever see her in the books, but it tells us everything we need to know. Marge is unapologetically cruel, proud of it, and perfectly happy to humiliate Harry whenever she gets the chance. But what came of Aunt Marge after the visit? Was she ever deflated back to normal size, or was she destined to remain a blimp for eternity? Although Harry storms off before he can see the aftermath, the Ministry of Magic steps in almost immediately. The Accidental Magic Reversal Squad is dispatched to Privet Drive, where they promptly deflate Marge, repair the damage to the Dursleys' home, and wipe her memory of the entire ordeal. To spare her the shock and possibly lifelong therapy of having been a human blimp, the night is neatly rewritten in her mind as nothing more than an ordinary visit to her brother's house. Rowling never follows Marge again. She plays no part in the war against Voldemort, and is almost certainly completely unaware that the wizarding world was on the brink of collapse. In fact, it's safe to assume she lived out the rest of the conflict just as she always had, pampering her bulldogs, idolizing Dudley, and telling anyone who'd listen how unnatural Harry was. And that's it for today's video. If you haven't seen part 1 already, be sure to check out the link in the pinned comment and description below. Until next time, remember, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live.